endowment lecture instituted at the KSRI as well as the Samskrita Academy. Both the institutions are jointly conducting the endowment lectures throughout this year. As a part of this series, we are going to have a lecture by Dr. YAMUNA under 3 endowments. Professor R. SANKARI endowment instituted by Brahmasri Dr. Sivashailam, Amalgamation Group Chairman. Professor Sankari was a professor of Sanskrit at the Vaishnava College for Women in Krompet. Her son also had come here. He has also donated to us. Sri Ramamurthy, who was the chairman or director at the Reliance Groups, vice president at Reliance Groups. And Professor Sankari, besides teaching at the Vaishnava College for Women, she was doing her PhD on Advaita under Dr. Vaidyanathan, former professor and head of the Department of Sanskrit, University of Madras, on Tattvānusandhānam. Unfortunately, she could not complete it as she passed away while she was doing PhD. She was also studying under the great Sri V.R. Kalyanasundara Sastrigal. And in her memory, respected Sri Sivashailam started this endowment at the Kuppuswami Sastri Research Institute quite some years ago, especially to give a talk on any theme on Advaita School of Philosophy or Sanskrit literature. So generally we have been having lectures on Advaita School of Philosophy every year. And in Samskrita Academy, this is also arranged under 2 endowments. One is Justice R.L. Narasimhan, who was a former Chief Justice of Orissa. His family members instituted this endowment many years ago at the Samskrita Academy. And Sri R. Ramasubramanya Sastrigal, who was a Sanskrit teacher of Srimati Renuka Narasimhan. And Srimati Renuka Narasimhan is a very close associate of the KSRI as well as the Samskrita Academy. So she had instituted this endowment in the Samskrita Academy. So under these 3 endowments, we are going to have the present lecture today by Dr. V. Yamuna Devi, Director, Research at the KSRI. And Dr. Yamuna Devi did her postgraduate course in Sanskrit in Bangalore University. And she got married, she came to Chennai, and she came to the KSRI to do her MPhil first under Dr. Kameshwari. And then after completing her MPhil on Paniniya Sutra Udaharana Kavya, she went for PhD on Amarakosha with the commentary of Kshiraswami. Amarakosha Udghatana, I think. So, which has been published by Karnataka Historical Research Society during their centenary. And then she was employed as assistant professor in the Shalamaris College for some years while she was doing PhD here. And then she joined as an academic staff at our institute. And presently, she is the Director for Research at the KSRI. She has published many articles, research articles, in our journal as well as in the journal across India. And she has participated in many seminars in India and recently in the World Sanskrit Conference at Nepal. And she is in the Board of Studies in many colleges, in the city colleges, and also in the Research Advisory Committee of many colleges in Chennai. And she has chosen the topic GÖÄHÄRTHA DީPIKާ, which is a commentary on Bhagavad Gita by the great MADHUSޫDANA Sarasvati. And we are eager to listen to her. Her specialization is generally grammar and Amarkosha, but she has chosen Advaita. Of course, she has done some work in Advaita, Avudayaka and other Advaitins also. And now she is completing one project on a historical kavya, which is unknown to many of us. It's called Veera Charita or Veera Charitra by Anantakavi, which talks about the Shalivahana and Shaka eras, the fight between both these Vikramaditya and Shalivahana families. It's a voluminous text. And she has also published quite a number of books. One recent book is the book on Sandhis, published by the Sanskrit Academy. And she will be coming up with more publications. And we are happy to have Dr. Yamuna today to give this talk. On behalf of the KSRI and the Sanskrit Academy, I welcome all of you. And now I request Dr. Yamuna to take over. Dr. Yamuna Devi, please.
गुरुरेव गतिः गुरुमेव भजे गुरुनैव सहास्मि नमो गुरवे न गुरोः परमं शिशुरस्मि गुरोः मतिरस्ति गुरौ मम पाहि गुरो वंशी विभूषितकरान्नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बराद् अरुणबिम्बफलाधरोष्ठात् पूर्णेन्दु सुन्दरमुखाद् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने. Today I consider it my blessing to be speaking about GÖÄHÄRTHA DީPIKާ of Madhusūdana Saraswati. Bhagavad Gita being very close to heart of my Guru, Vidushi Anant Lakshmi Amba, she always used to say, Putri, Samskritam patasi chet avashyam Bhagavad Gitam patha iti. So I offer this to her and all my gurus here, because of whom I stand in front of this audience. We know that the Prasthanatrayas, Upanishads, Brahma Sutra and Bhagavad Gita are the sources of dharma and which help one to understand or lead one to liberation. And so the acharyas of all philosophies, whether Advaita, Vishtadvaita or Dvaita, they have written commentaries on all the three, and especially Bhagavad Gita has many commentaries, more than 2,000 commentaries in all the languages throughout the world. And Adi Shankaracharya, his Shankara Bhashya on Bhagavad Gita is so special that on Shankara Bhashya, there are super tikas his Shishyas have written, and of them, GÖÄHÁRTHA DīPIKާ is one of Madhusūdana Sarasvati. So before we proceed to the text, the commentary of GÖÄHÁRTHA DīPIKާ, it will be apt that a short biography of the author is known, so that we understand in what context the commentary has been written. So during the 12th, 16th century, there was political unrest in North India when the Mohammedans were invading, and the ancestors of Madhusūdana Sarasvati had migrated from Kannauj to a place called Unashia, which is in Faridpur today, and Pramodan Purandhara Acharya had 4 sons, of whom the third Kamalanayana was later Madhusūdana Sarasvati. All his sons were learned, it is said. We don't get much history about the author, but whatever is available from the sources, we come to know that Purandaracharya himself was a great scholar, and Kamalanayana was initiated into study of Kavya, Sahitya and grammar in a very early age. Later, and that was the period, he was born between, his time is said to be between 1565 to 1665. And it was that period when Bhakti movement was prevalent in West Bengal. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was spreading Bhakti and people were infused with that Bhakti. Very much wanting to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is said that Kamalanayana traveled from Bangladesh to Navadvipa to meet this great saint. But unfortunately, when he went to Bengal, there he could not find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he was moving about spreading the Bhakti movement throughout the world. So he was waiting to meet his role model, but in the meantime, he learnt Nyaya Shastra from Mathuranatha Tarkavagisha, great scholar of that time. And he actually wanted to refute Advaita. That was his intention. So he went to Varanasi to learn Advaita philosophy from Ramatirtha. He learned Advaita philosophy. And as he learned, he realized that Advaita was ultimate. And he wanted to also learn Mimamsa so that it will help in establishing whatever theory he wanted to. So he learned Mimamsa Shastra also from Madhava Sarasvati. Then, after learning so much, he had come to a stage that he wanted to become a sannyasi, take sannyasa diksha in the Advaita school of philosophy, in the Advaita school itself. So he took sannyasa from Vishveshwarananda Saraswati. So this is how Madhusūdana Sarasvati, wanting to refute Advaita, became an Advaitin himself. One more incident which we will have to note about Madhusūdana Sarasvati is, during his period when he was staying in Chausati Ghat in Varanasi, he came across that the Muslim priests were attacking the Hindus, both the pilgrims and the sannyasis who visited Varanasi. Since he was very close to Akbar and he was respected in the court of Akbar, he went there to find a solution. And on advice of Birbal, the wise Birbal, he was bent to make a group of sannyasins, train a group of sannyasins, and because the law in those days was that the Muslim saints were beyond law, they could not be punished. So Birbal had advised that Madhusudana Saraswati raise a sannyasi, group of sannyasis who would be trained in military also. So that is how came the Naga sect of sannyasis. So this is similar to Tukaram Ganapati later, when we see in 16th, 17th century, though he was spreading Bhakti movement, he was supporting Shivaji also. And when the people were attacked by the Mohammedans, he also insisted that the villagers would defend themselves and learn to defend themselves. So that is how Bhakti, and even they helped in political movement also. So the similarities in the great saints are seen in this aspect. Now, coming to the works of Madhusudana Saraswati, we find he has written more than 20 to 21 works. Madhusudana Saraswati wrote a number of works involving the defense of exposition of Advaita Vedanta, of which the largest and most respected is the Advaita Siddhi, which opposes the Dvaita Vedanta positions and arguments in Vyasatirtha's work Nyayamrita. And the GÖÄHARTHA DīPIKާ on Bhagavad Gita is also one of his commentaries. Of many commentaries, this is one. Bhagavata commentary is also very famous. So the GÖÄHARTHA DīPIKާ of Madhusudana Saraswati is very important in one sense, because when Adi Shankara had established Advaita, the period was when Kumarila Bhatta and others had emphasized that Karma Marga was superior. And it was at that period that Shankara had established Advaita philosophy. Similarly, when Madhusudana Saraswati was neither self-contradictory nor surprising, because he was fully infused with bhakti of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So just as in the days of Kumarila Bhatta and Shankara, the most important problem was reconciliation of karma and jnana. And during the time of Madhusudana Saraswati, Vallabha, the greatest problem was jnana and bhakti. So here in GÖÄHARTHA DīPIKާ, we find that Madhusudana Saraswati has amalgamated both jnana and bhakti. The work begins, the commentary begins with a prayer and salutations to his guru, and he mentions Bhagavat Pada Bhashyartham Alochya Ati Prayatnataha Prayaha Pratipadam Kurve Gita GÖÄHARTHA DīPIKāṁ. So this is a super commentary on Adi Shankara's Bhashya. So wherever he is quoting Adi Shankara's text and commentary, he mentions it as Bhashyakara in most of the places. Now, in the introductory verses, the GÖÄHARTHA DīPIKާ says what kind of text the Bhagavad Gita is and why is it important. Sahetukasya samsarasya atyanta uparamatmakam param nishreyasam Gita Shastrasya Uktam Prayojanam. So the ultimate aim of Bhagavad Gita is to help one to attain liberation. That is what he says. And Satchidananda Rupam Tatpurnam Vishnof Param Padam Tatpraptaye Samarabdha Veda Kandatrayatmakaha. And the Vedas are in 3 kandas, he says, Karma Kanda, Upasana Kanda and Jnana Kanda. And similarly, Madhusudana Saraswati emphasizes that the Bhagavad Gita is also into 3 groups. You can classify the 18 adhyayas in 3 groups as Karmanishtha, Bhaktinishtha and Jnananishtha. Ekamekena Shatkena Kandam Atra Upalakshayet Karmanishtha Jnananishthe Kathite Pratamantyayoho. And he says the first and the last kandas of the Bhagavad Gita, that is the first 6 adhyayas and the last 6 adhyayas, are grouped together. Now, the first is dealing with, first 6 deals with karmanishtha, and the last 6 deal with jnananishtha. So there is the middle portion, he says, yatas samuchayo nasti tayor ati virodataha bhagavad bhakti nishtha tu madhyame parikirtita. So he says, this bhakti is the one which unites the karma and jnana. That is how the text is written. So, not only that, he says, tatra tu prathame kande karma tyaga vartmana tvatpadartho vishuddhatma sopapattir nirupyate. So, in the first kanda, he says, of the vakya, mahavakya, tattvamasi, the tatpadartha is explained in the prathama kanda. Prathama kanda is the first 6 adhyayas. Dvitiye Bhagavad Bhaktinishtha Varnana Vartmana Bhagavan Paramanandas Tatpadartho Avadharyate. So, in the middle, the Bhakti Kanda, he says, deals with Tatpadartha, the Paramatma. Tritiye tu Tayor Aikyam Vakyartho Varnyate Sputam. So, in the last or the third Kanda, consisting of the last 6 adhyayas of the Bhagavad Gita, Tattvamasi is clearly explained. This is how the Bhagavad Gita chapters are designed. Now, he moves on and he says, Pratyadhyayam Visheshastu Tatra Tatraiva Vakshyate. So, whatever is special to an adhyaya, he highlights in every chapter the speciality of the adhyayas. And as he proceeds, the gradual stages and the process of stages of a spiritual practitioner is also explained. Pratyadhyayam Visheshastu Tatra Tatraiva Vakshyate Mukti Sadhana Parvedam Shastrarthatvena Kathyate Nishkama Karmanushtanam Tyagat Kamya Nishiddhayoho. So he says Nishkama Karma is the Anushtana one has to follow. Tyagat Kamya Nishiddhayoho. The Kamya Karmas, whatever is desired, like Putra Kameshti Yaga is done for seeking a son. So such Kamya and Nishiddha, what is prohibited in the Shastras, such acts should not be done. Tatrapi Paramo Dharmo Japastu Japastutyadikam Harehe. So he says, with this, japa and the worship of Lord has to be integrated. Kshina papasya chittasya viveke yogyata tada nitya nitya vivekastu jayate sudridas tada. So when karmanushtanas are done, he says it helps in the chitta shuddhi. And when chitta shuddhi is attained, it helps in viveka, nitya nitya vastu viveka. So he gives these stages of development of a spiritual aspirant in about 40 verses. And then at the end, he says, Dukkham Swabhavato Dvesham. So these are only the introductory verses in the commentary. Dukkham Swabhavato Dveshyam Sarvesham Praninam Iha. So the ultimate aim of every human being is we want to be happy. We do not want dukkha at all. Ataha tat sadhanam tyajyam shoka mohadikam sada. So we want to be out of shoka and moha. Anadi bhava santana nirudham dukkha karanam dustyajam shoka mohadi kena upayena hiyatam. So which is the means to come out of shoka and dukkha. Evam akanksaya avishtam purushartha unmukham naram bubodayishuhu aha idam bhagavan shastram uttamam. Idam shastram uttamam shastram bhagavan aha. So he says this Bhagavad Gita is a shastra which is given by Bhagavan Shri Krishna himself for the sake of human beings to get liberated. Liberation from the cycle of birth and death, all shoka, dukkha, moha, everything. So beautiful. The commentary, I think I am drowned in the commentary. It is so beautiful, the language, the way he has presented, it is so easily comprehensible. I am giving here only a glimpse of the commentary. So I will be introducing what are the aspects he has covered, and in the end, if it would attract you to read the text, then I think that would be the most happiest thing which the lecture would be conveying then. So first I would like to bring to your notice how the adhyayas are named a little differently by Madhusudana Saraswati. The 18 adhyayas, the popular names we all know, I have given here. Arjuna Vishada Yoga, Sankhya Yoga is the second adhyaya. Here, Madhusudana Saraswati specifically mentions it is Sarva Gitartha Sutranam. So, why it is Sarva Gitartha Sutranam? Just a little later we will be seeing that. So, some of the adhyayas have special names. Karma Sannyasa Yoga is Swaswarupa Vijnanam. Atma Sannyasa Yoga is Adhyatma Yoga. Then, Jnana Vijnana Yoga is Adhikari Bhedena Jnaya Dhyeya Pratipadya Tattva Brahma Nirupanam. Akshara Brahma Yoga is again, all these we find in this Shatka. He classifies it based on the Adhikari. So, whichever suits us, we can take that path and follow. That is how it is designed. Adhikari Bhedena Rajavidya Rajaguhya Yogaha. Adhikari Bhedena Vibhuti Yogaha. So goes the naming of the adhyayas. And here also Kshetra, Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga is Kshetra, Kshetrajna Viveka Yoga. Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga is Prakriti Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. And then Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga is Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga Vivaranam. Sannyasa Yoga Pratipadanam is the 18th adhyaya. So here the commentary has a wealth of information on all the aspects, whether it is Advaita Vedanta, Yoga, Vyakarana, Nyaya, Sankhya, Mimamsa and Sahitya find their right places in the commentary. So I would just be highlighting a few aspects of the commentary. The summary of chapters and verses are given by Madhusudana Saraswati. So sometimes he gives it in a verse. For example, in the Dvitiya Adhyaya, this is Sankhya Yoga, generally known as Sankhya Yoga. I told you he has given the name Sarva Gitartha Sutranam Nama Dvitiyodhyayaha. So in this chapter, Jnanam Tat Sadhanam Karma. He says first Jnana is the sadhana. Jnana is the goal which we have to reach. And for that the sadhana is karma. Sattva Shuddhischa Tat Phalam. So what is the result of doing karma is Sattva Shuddhi. And when Sattva Shuddhi is obtained, Tat Phalam Jnana Nishtaiva iti Adhyaye Asmin Prakirtitam. So the whole, whatever the Bhagavad Gita is talking about is given in gist in the second adhyaya. So it is like in the sutra form in the second adhyaya, and each following adhyaya is an expansion of whatever is given in the second adhyaya. That is why he says it is Sarva Gitartha Sutranam Nama Dvitiyodhyayaha. So also in the end of the third chapter, he gives a verse summarizing the third chapter, that is Upayaha Karmanishtha Atra Pradhanyena Upasamhrita. So the third adhyaya deals with Karma Yoga. What are the kinds of karmas? All these are dealt with elaborately. So that is primary. And Upeya Jnana Nishthato Tad Gunatvena Prakirtita. And wherever necessary, he has talked also about the Jnana Yoga. Now, moving on to Chaturtha Adhyaya, he says, summarizing the chapter, Swasya Anishatva Badhena Bhakti Shraddhe Dhridi Krite Dihetuhu Karmanishtacha Harina Iha Upasamhritaha. So by removing the notion that he is not God, devotion and faith have been strengthened, and steadfastness in action, which leads to knowledge, has been enumerated in this chapter, which is the Brahmarpana Yoga. Sometimes, or from the beginning, when he is beginning a Shatka or when he is concluding a Shatka, he gives an avatarika, and which is very interesting. Suppose we don't have time. We want to know what is given in the first 6 chapters. Then you may read the introduction of the first Adhyaya and the introduction of the 7th Adhyaya, where he summarizes what is given in the first Shatka, which is very interesting. So here we have Saptamodhyaya, which says, yes, Tad yadbhaktim navina yuktihi yaha sevyaha sarva yoginam tam vande paramananda ghanam Shri Nanda Nandanam. So every chapter, whether he begins or ends, there is one verse on Lord Krishna. The bhakti of Madhusūdana Sarasvati is seen in every chapter, every place. It is infused in every cell of his, is seen in the commentary. So he begins this with a prayer to that Krishna. Evam, so at the beginning of the 7th Adhyaya, he says, Evam karma sanyasatmaka sadhana pradhanena prathama shatkena Nyeyam tvam pada lakshyam samyogam vyakhyayam adhuna vyakhyaya adhuna dheya brahma pratipadana pradhanena madhyamena shatkena tatpadartho vyakhyayate. So he is giving he summarizes the first 6 adhyayas, and then he says the middle shatka deals with Tatpadartha. So here again we see how he summarizes these chapters. Not only chapter summarization or summarization of Shatkas are available, sometimes a single verse is elaborately commented, and for a single verse he gives a summary, the gist of what is being said in one verse. Yasmat ksharamati aksharad api chottamaha atosmi loke vede cha pratitah purushottamaha. So here in the 18th verse of chapter 15, he says he is Purushottama, and this is beautifully summarized in 2 verses of Karunyato naravadacharatah pararthan parthaya bodhitavato nijamishwaratvam satchit sukhaika vapushaha purushottamasya narayanasya mahima nahi manameti kechin nigruhya karanani visrijya bhogam asthaya yogam amalatma dhiyo yatante narayanasya mahimanam anantaparam aswadayan amritasaram aham tu muktaha. He says many are with great difficulty trying to control their senses. Karanani visrijya bhogam asthaya yogam amalatma diyaha. So they practice yoga and other things, but take me. He says, I am just engrossed in the Lord and still I am muktaha. So just by doing mukti, he says you can attain moksha or liberation. And again, concluding the 20th, the 15th Adhyaya, the Purushottama Yoga, again he says, because there he has been saying about his different forms. So here, the Vamshi Vibhushitakara, that is the verse found here at the end of this chapter, with that, Sada Sadananda Pade Nimagnam Mano Manobhavam Apakaroti Gata Agataya Samapasya Sadhyaha Paraparatītam upaiti tattvam. Shaivas saurascha ganeshaha Vaishnavaha shakti pujakaha bhavanti enmayaha sarve sohamasmi parashivaha. So whatever form is propitiated, he says, everything is but myself only. So thus, he has summarized every chapter and wherever necessary, even a single verse, and its gist has been given. So now I would like to give a glimpse of how he has handled various philosophies in the commentary. So taking one verse from the 13th adhyaya, Mahabhutanyahankaro buddhiravyaktamevacha indriyani dashaikam cha panchachendriya gocharaha. So here he explains this verse according to the Sankhya philosophy. So here he says, Mahanti bhutani bhumyadini pancha ahankaras tat karana bhutaha abhimana lakshanaha buddhir ahankara karanam mahat tattvam adhyavasaya lakshanam avyaktam tat karanam sattva rajas tamo gunatmakam pradhanam sarvakaranam na kasyapi karyam. And evakaraha prakrityavadharanarthaha. So every word in the verse is commented upon. So why evakara is given here in the verse? He says eva prakrityavadharanarthaha etavatyeva ashtada prakritihi. And he says, it's a long commentary. In the concluding portion he says, thus indriyani dashaikam cha shrotra tvak chakshu rasana ghranakyani. So the pancha karmendriyas, pancha buddhindriyani, vak pani pada payu upasthakyani pancha karmendriyani titani ekam cha manaha. So 5 sense organs, 5 motor organs, and the manas make 11. Sankalpa vipkalpatmakam manaha panchacha indriya gocharaha shabda sparsha rupa rasagandaste buddhindriyani jnapyatvena vishayaha karmendriyanam tu karyatvena tani etani sankyas chaturvimshati tattvani achakshate. So he says how the 24 important principles are taken by the Sankhya philosophy are all explained in this verse. And not only that, he says at the end of 14th adhyaya, in the avatarika of the 14th adhyaya, yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam sthavara jangamam kshetra kshetrajna samyogat tadvidhi ityuktam nirishvara sankhямata nirakaranena kshetra kshetrajna samyogasya ishvaratvam vaktavyam. So how, because Sankhya philosophy does not accept God as supreme. So here he says this 14th adhyaya establishes Ishwaratva by refuting the Sankhya philosophy. So that is how he gives the outlook of all the philosophies, and he establishes Advaita philosophy, amalgamating bhakti in it. Now, looking into yoga philosophy, we'll take one verse of the 4th adhyaya. Shrotranindranyante anye samyamagnishu juhvati shabdadin vishayanyanye indriyagnishu juhvati. This is a beautiful verse where in the 4th adhyaya the Lord is talking about different kinds of yajnas, and of those yajnas this is one relating to the yoga philosophy. So according to the meaning justice, according to this, some offer sense organs like ear in the fire of samyama. Some others offer the sense objects like sound in the fire of sense organs. We will not understand this. So the commentary is very beautiful. He says, Anye here means others engaged in restraining the organs. So far he had been talking about the Vedic sacrifices, and now he is talking about those who practice yoga. So those engaged in restraining the organs, he says, what do? Shrotradini indriyani, that is the sense organs like hearing and others. Samyama agnishu, in the fire of self-control. What do? By withdrawing the sense organs from the objects, they offer as oblations. So by the word samyama, what is it meant? So he says it means the dharana, the three, mainly dharana, dhyana and samadhi. And according to Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, Trayam Ekatra Samyamaha. Among them, dharana or concentration consists in fixing the mind for a long time in the lotus of the heart. Of the mind held in one place, dhyana consists in current of mental modifications in the form of Lord, interrupted now and then. So in dhyana also it is not completely under control. The mind is always wavering. And then is samadhi, which consists of the complete absorption of the mind, where the thought flow of ideas are kept constant and it is uninterrupted. So that, however, the samadhi state, he says, is of two kinds. Just a minute. Yes. So this mind, this samadhi is samprajñāta samadhi and asamprajñāta samadhi. The mind is said to be in 5 stages. So one is kshipta, where it is engrossed in objects. And the second is mudha, where it is stupefied, overcome with drowsiness. And the third stage is vikshipta, where it is trying to concentrate, but still it is restless. And then ekagrata is one-pointedness, and niruddha is where it is completely restrained. So the mind undergoes, he says, these 5 stages when one is practicing yoga. However, the mind is, he says, that in the first 2 stages, you cannot say the mind is in samadhi, but of these, there is no question of samadhi. But in the case of kshipta and the mudha, there is a slight touch of samadhi. The casual samadhi that may come to a vikshipta mind, however, is not conducive to yoga on account of the predominance of restlessness. On the other hand, it dies away of itself like a lamp disturbed by wind in these stages. However, the mind in the stage of ekagra, when it is capable of maintaining a continuous flow of modification with regard to a single object like japa and others, as a restless of there is sattva guna predominant, he says. And the modifications is concerned with one object only because of the absence of vikshepa in the form of restlessness, which arises from the quality of rajas. Hence, the mind becomes ekagra when its quality of sattva becomes pure. The samadhi is called samprajñāta, and it occurs in this level of mind, and it is also called, he says, the dharma megha. So later he explains asamprajñāta samadhi, and he equates asamprajñāta samadhi to dharma megha. So explaining how these 5 stages are leading one from thus eliminating the functions of the sense organs in the state of samadhi has been spoken of here as a sacrifice. Now he moves on to the second half of the verse, where he says, thus the first half, it is stated that the 4 limbs of yoga, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana and samadhi is stated. Thus the elimination of functions of the sense organs in the state of samadhi has been spoken of as a sacrifice. Now, in the second half of the verse, it is being stated that the enjoyment of objects without attachment or aversion, which occurs in the state of vyutthana, that is, vyutthana is emergence from samadhi, is also another kind of sacrifice. So this state, he says, the vyutthana state is where juhvati offering is done. So he says the objects like the sound, etc., are indriyagnishu, in the fire of sense organs, they are offered. Without attachment, they perceive, like others, unprohibited objects with the organs of hearing, etc., and this itself is an offering. So there are two kinds of offerings which are practiced by a yogin. So one is in the process, when he is in the process of attaining samadhi, he is controlling his sense organs, and that is again a ahuti. And when he is attained samadhi, after he comes out of samadhi, even when he is enjoying the objects, though he enjoys the objects, there is no attachment, and so that is also a kind of sacrifice. That is how this verse has been explained with all quotations from Yoga Sutra of Patanjali in detail. Apart from this, wherever necessary, Madhusūdana Sarasvati has quoted Patanjali's Yoga Sutra extensively, but we'll have to see how in one place he says how yoga and Advaitins are connected. He points out why Vedantins do not resort to yoga while commenting on the verse Sarvabhutasthamatmanam Sarvabhutani Chatmani Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma Sarvatra Samadarshanaha. So here he says Atayeva Bhagavat Pujyapadaha Kutrapi Brahmavidam Yogapeksham Na Vyutpadayam Babuvuhu. Atayeva cha Upanishadaha Paramahamsaha Shraute Vedanta Vakya Vichareyeva Gurum Upasritya Pravartante Brahmasakshatkaraya Natu Yoge Vicharenaiva Chitta Dosha Nirakaranena. So he gives the reason that by the study of Vedanta, the Chitta Shuddhi occurs and they don't resort to yoga. So though he gives in appropriate places, wherever necessary, he quotes Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, he also says why yoga, the Vedantins do not resort to yoga, giving these explanations. Similarly, we find, I told you he has mastered all the Shastras, and every Shastra find its right place. So, Neha Vikramana Shosti Pratyavayo na Vidyate Svalpamapyasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bhayat. The Lord says, whatever dharma you are doing, Svalpamapi Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bhayat. You do your dharma, your duty. Whatever you do, you should do it. Already he has spoken of how duty has to be done. It has to be done with complete surrender to the Lord. That is how he says. So whatever you do, you offer it to the Lord. And when you are doing, the phala, usually karma phala, whatever action you do, how does the result accrue? All these are discussed in detail in Mimamsa Shastra, and that is completely given in a detailed explanation for this work. It goes on for pages. The Sara here, what he wants to emphasize is, whatever little, what the Mimamsaka says, only when all the karmas are done, the phala comes to the one who does it. But here he says, even if one would keep one step in the path of salvation through bhakti, he says it doesn't go waste. It doesn't go waste, it will give you that marks. Just like as in maths, we write the steps, even for each step there is marking. So that is how he says, you will have marks, you will get the fruit of it when you are following the dharma or you are doing the karmanushtana without attachment. So do whatever you are doing without attachment. So saying, he has discussed Mimamsa Shastra in detail, and also he has used the Tarka Shastra wherever necessary. There is also a saying very famous that Navadvipe Samayate Madhusudana Vakpatau Chakampe Tarkavagishaha Katarobhut Gadadaraha. So these are great stalwarts in the Nyaya Shastra. Even they were afraid of Madhusudana Saraswati. He has aptly used these Shastras to establish Bhakti and Advaita. I would like to bring to your notice as to how even simple words like tu, cha, all these are avyayas, but how even they are explained by Madhusudana Saraswati. So, asmakam tu vishishtaye tannibodadvijottama nayaka mama sainyasya sanyartham tan bravimite. So here, Duryodhana is talking and he is addressing Bhishma, asmakam tu vishishtaye. Already Bhishma, they are just gathered for the war, they are in the war field and the war is about to begin. And Duryodhana approaches Bhishma and he says, you see, I'm wanting to tell you that who are all on our side, the great warriors on our side, I'm listing. Tu shabdena antarutpannamapi bhayam tirodhanaha drishtatam atmanaha dyotayati. So the arrogance of Duryodhana is revealed by the use of tu, the word tu, he says. That is the commentary here. And another place, ayaneshu tu sarveshu yata bhagam avasthitaha. Here the avyaya is suggestive of a particular duty. He says every person, every warrior is placed in their right place. So the action, what he has done is highlighted here. And this is one interesting grammatical aspect. Adityanamaham Vishnuho Jyotisham Raviram Shuman. So here, when he is commenting on the various forms of his, he says, the Shashti Vibhakti, Adityanam Aham Vishnuhu. So Adityanam is in Shashti Vibhakti. So of the Adityas, I am Vishnu. So this is the plain meaning. So here, which Shashti is ordained by Sutra, so by what meaning should be given here? It is Nirdharana Shashti. So of these Adityas, Krishna, that is Vishnu, is supreme. So it is establishing the supremacy of Vishnu. But atra prayena nirdharane shashti kvachit sambandhe api. And he gives where sambandha shashti is used. Yata bhutanam asmi chetana ityadav. So in the context of bhutanam asmi chetana, there also bhutanam is in shashti vibhakti, but there it should be taken as sambandha shashti and not nirdharana shashti. So he differentiates the usage of shashti vibhakti and shows. And how psychological analysis is done by Madhusudana Saraswati is best understood here. Bhavan bhishmascha karnascha krupascha samitinjayaha. He is listing out who are all the great warriors on the side, on their side. So he has first said Bhavan, Bhishmascha, Drona. So Bhavan here refers to Drona. So Bhavan Dronaha, Bhishmaha, Karnaha, Kripat. So for all these great Bhishma or Drona being his own guru, he has not given any adjective. But why did he give for Kripa, Samitinjayaha? So Madhusudana Saraswati emphasizes here, Samitim Sangramam Jayati Samitinjayaha iti Kripa Visheshanam. Karnad Anantaram Ganyamanatwena. Because he has put Kripa after the name of Karna. Actually, Kripa should have been mentioned earlier, but he has mentioned him after. Maybe he, by the slip of the tongue, or he wanted to hide his, ignorance or whatever it is, because he had a soft corner for Karna, so he mentioned Karna. He wanted to hide that, so now he has mentioned Kripa. How to hide it? So he gave one adjective as Samitinjayaha. So such nuances are also pointed out by the commentator. So again, adjectives, every adjective is also highlighted, where he says like Ananta Vijayam Raja Kunti Putro Yudhishthiraha. Kunti Putra Yudhishthira. For Yudhishthira, he has given 3 adjectives. Raja and Kunti Putra. He gives 2. So why it is given? All these are explained beautifully in the commentary. I think I am running short of time, so I will skip a few of these and go to the most important ones. There are beautiful analogies. Kim karma kimakarmeti kavayopyatra mohitaha tatte karma pravakshyami yajñatva mokshase ashubhat. So he says, the Bhagavad Gita, especially this verse, what to do, what not to do. Always we are in a dilemma. And he says, kavayopyatra mohitaha. So how to explain this? See, the explanation of the commentary, nausthasya nishkriyeshu api tatastha vriksheshu gamana brahma darshanat. When we are in a moving vehicle, so nausthasya is when one is moving in a boat. He says, nishkriyeshu api tatastha vriksheshu. So when a person moving in boat sees a tree on the bank, it appears as though the tree is moving. Tatha durat chakshuho sannikrishteshu gachatsu api purusheshu agamana brahma darshanat paramartataha kim karma kim va paramartataha akarma iti kavayopi atra mohitaha. This is how he explains. So when one is standing, he sees a moving object. So there is always, we have experienced this. So the whatever is known example which we see in day-to-day life is given explaining what is this beautiful verse. And Sahitya Shastra, this was very interesting. Vistarena atmano yogam vibhutim cha janardana bhuya kataya truptirhi shrunvato nasti me amritam. Arjuna, after listening to Krishna's words, he is engrossed and he is asking him to tell more and more. He says, I'm not at all satisfied. It is like drinking Amrita. I want to hear more and more. This is what he says. So here, triptihi alam pratyayena ichha avichittir nasti. He yasmat shrunvataha shravanena pibataha tvad vakyam amritam amritavat pade pade swadu swadu. He says every word of yours is amrita. And there is no tripti for me. I want to hear. So here there are 3 alankaras. He says atra tvad-vakyam iti anuktehe apanhuti. So apanhuti alankara is there because when a word is not, the words are not directly said. Here, shrunvato nasti me triptihi. So I am listening, there is no tripti. So what is he listening to? The words of Sri Krishna. That is not explicitly mentioned, so it is apanhuti alankara. And to drink amrita through ears, atishayokti. And rupaka is because the words are themselves amrita. So all 3 alankaras are here. That is how he explains in this verse. So all the alankara part also has been covered. Now, in the beginning itself, he has said that every word of Bhashyakara will be explained. And in 6th Adhyaya, while concluding, Vyakhyatritvepi me natra bhashyakarena tulyata. I can never equal the Bhashyakara. He says, he is such a great philosopher. Though I am commenting on his words, I can never be equal to him. See the beautiful example he gives. Gunjayaha kimnu hemnaika tularohe api tulyata. You are weighing in a weighing machine. One side the gold is kept, the other side the weigh stone is kept. Can the weigh stone and the gold equal themselves? He says, I'm like the waste stone. Such a humility. And 18th chapter, when he is concluding, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. Again, this is an elaborate commentary. Summing up, he says, Bhashyakarair nirastani durmatani iha vistarat. Grantha vyakhyana matrarthi na tadartham aham yate. So everything already has been said by Bhashyakara. He has given a gist of whatever is needed. Now, the conclusion portion, he says, what is it? He is giving it in a gist. Tasyaiva aham, mamaiva asau, and sayeva aham. These are the three things. And for each of this, he gives one example. Tatra adyam, tasyaiva aham. So, this is a beautiful stotra from Shatpadi Stotra. Satyapi bhedapagame natha tavaham namama kinastvam samudro hi tarangah kvachana samudro natarangah. He says we belong to that Lord. And the example he gives is the waves belong to Samudra. And you can never say the Samudra belongs to the wave. Samudro hi tarangaha, kvachana samudro natarangaha. And so also for the other two he has given. And at the end, Bhagavad Bhakti Nishtha tu ubhaya sadhana bhuta, ubhaya pala bhuta cha bhavatiti anta upasamhrita sarvadharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja ityatra. Bhashyakೃತಸ್ಥೋ ಸರ್ವಧರ್ಮಾನ್ ಪರಿತ್ಯಜ್ಯ ಇತಿ ಸರ್ವಕರ್ಮಸನ್ಯಾಸ ಅನುವಾದೇನ ಕರ್ಮಸನ್ಯಾಸ ಅನುವಾದೇನ ಮಾಮೇಕಂ ಶರಣಂ ವ್ರಜ ಇತಿ ಜ್ಞಾನನಿಷ್ಠಾ ಉಪಸಂಹೃತ ಇತಿ ಆಹುಃ. Though he differs from the Bhashyakara, his Acharya, he is so humble. He says, Bhagavad abhipraya varnane kevayam varakaha. So, that is his opinion, but I differ. I say bhakti also leads to jnana. So the Acharya is correct in his own way, but in ennoda alpamathik enna puriyumo na sollirken அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி இங்க அவர் சொல்லியிருக்கார். And just two more I would like to highlight. Chaturvida, about the bhaktas he mentions, Chaturvida bhajante mam janaha sukrutino arjuna artho jignasur artharti jnani cha bharatarshaba. So he gives profuse examples of who is an arti, who is a jignasu, artharti and jnani. Just those we would like to go through. So here he says arti are those who are in dukkha. Dukkatala bhagavana yaar aderalo avala arti. It can be like those here. Okay. He says Jarasandha, yes, Jarasandha Karagara Varti Raja Nichayaha Dyuta Sabhayam Vastra Akarshanena Draupadi Draupadi cha Grahagrastaha Gajendrascha. So these kings who were captured in Jarasandha's jail and those who were captivated there, then Draupadi who had called for Krishna at the time of distress, and the Gajendra who had called the Lord when he was caught by the crocodile, all these are artis. And then he says Jignasuhu Atma Jnanarthi Mumukshuhu. So Jignasi is one who is mumukshu, who is wanting to attain knowledge for, and moksha, who is wanting to attain moksha. Yatha muchukundaha, yatava maitilaha, janakaha, shrutadevascha, nivritte mausale yatha uddhavaha. So Uddhava also comes under this category of mumukshu. Artharthi ihava paratrava yad bhoga upakaranam tal lipsuhu. Tatra iha yata sugrivaha. So these kinds, they have, they want whatever they want in this world. So example is Sugriva, Vibhishana and Upamanyu. And for Paratra, Dhruva, today he is still a Dhruva Nakshatra. So, ete trayopi Bhagavad bhajanena mayam taranti. So, saying, he also gives examples for tatra nishkama bhakto jnani yatha sanakadir yatha narado yatha prahladaha yatha prutuhu yatha va shukaha. So all these, he says, bhakti is very, very important, and through bhakti, even if one is a duracharavarti api, like Ajamila at the end when he calls, even they attain moksha. So, drishtantaschatra ajamilah prahlada dhruva gajendradayah prasiddhaha na vasudeva bhaktanam ashubham vidyate kvachit. So, all these are explained in detail, and every chapter ends with a beautiful verse to the Lord, especially Krishna. So, here asmakam, I would just like to end with one beautiful verse. Shri Govinda Padaravinda Makaranda Aswada Shuddhashayaha Samsaram Bhudimuttaranti Sahasa Pashyanti Purnam Mahaha Vedantair Avadharayanti Paramam Shreyastyajanti Brahmam Dvaitam Swapnasamam Vidanti Vimalam Vindanti Cha Anandatam. So just by following bhakti, he says, one can, bhakti itself would lead to jnana, and it will surely lead one to moksha. So this commentary is exhaustive. It's like an ocean, and I have just brought one drop. I thank the endowment makers. I thank our director at the Academy, Sanskrit Academy, President, for having given me this opportunity to talk on this topic, GÖÄHÄRTHA DEEPIKA. I thank one and all for patiently listening. I thank all my colleagues here and my friends for being my support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Yamuna. It's a very wonderful, nice lecture. And it is under 3 endowments. R. SANKARI endowment, Professor Justice R.L. Narasimhan endowment, and Brahmasri or RAMASUBRAHMANYA SASTRIGAL endowment. So under these 3 endowments, this lecture is arranged, both under the auspices of Kuppuswami Research Institute and Sanskrit Academy, and as has been presented by our director, Sankari, who was the professor of Sanskrit. Unfortunately, she died in harness. She was professor in Vaishnava College, Krompet, and she studied under my teacher. We have Professor Bhashya Bhavagya Varahur Kalyan Sundara Sastrigal. And with his name, I wanted to recollect the name of our great Mahaswamigal. Apara Karuna Sindhum, Jnanadam Shantarupinam, Sri Chandrasekhara Gurum, Pranamami Mudanvaham. Today being his Aradhana day, and in this 20th century, he has established an all-inclusive attitude of philosophy and religion, which Madhusūdana Saraswati also has shown, as we have seen. In fact, how beautifully Asampragnata Samadhi and Sampragnata Samadhi have been incorporated. You can find it in Atma Samstam Manakritva Nakinchidape Avasadayet. There, how to differentiate Asampragnata Samadhi and Sampragnata Samadhi from Advaitic angle. That he presents. Atmakara Vritti and Atmakara Jnana. This is how he tries to differentiate. So how it can be incorporated, all those things, that you can see it. So she studied Tattvanusandhana. Tattvanusandhana was by Mahadeva Saraswati, who had written books on Sankhya, Yoga, Mimamsa and Vedanta, and they have been studied both by foreigners as well as by our Indian scholars, and this Tattvanusandhana has been translated into many Indian languages, and it is widely read book, and of course she could not complete, and my teacher expressed it would be better if somebody takes it up and then completes it. And then I never expected that the responsibility will be cast on me, and me and Vasudeva, we have taken it up, and then we have completed the translation brought out by Kuppuswami Sastri Research Institute. That also was one of the very nice books, just like Vedanta Paribhasha. It was a beautiful introduction to Advaita Vedanta in 4 chapters. Many of the nice points have been incorporated in that particular book. That's also one of the nice things. Just like Siddhanta Bindu of Madhusudana Saraswati. In Siddhanta Bindu, for the word Vedanta, he says, Parimalanto Grantha Bhagaha. He refers to Apaya Dikshita there in that particular work. And Justice R.L. Narasimhan. And our friend Dr. Sri N.D. Raghavan, son of N. Devanathan, has referred to about R.L. Narasimhan's achievements. He was an ICS officer and then Chief Secretary in Orissa, and he was Chief Justice of Orissa High Court, and then Patna High Court, Railway Rates Tribunal, and then Jail Reforms Commission, so many other things. But he was more interested in Sanskrit also, and his granddaughter has come here, and the family members, because of his interest in those days, the family members have instituted an endowment to what is called to spread the knowledge of Sanskrit in the Sanskrit Academy. And Renuka Narasimhan, I think she must be known to people here. She studied under Brahmasri RAMASUBRAHMANYA SASTRIGAL, who was a great grammarian, and to what is called bring out the nuances of Sanskrit grammar, she has instituted this endowment in the name of his teacher. I think he was working in PSI school or somewhere here in Mylapore. Of course, I did not have the fortune of knowing him, but he was a great grammarian, and in his name she has what is called instituted. And Yamuna Devi, though the lecture is on GÖÄHÄRTHA DīPIKā of Madhusūdana Saraswati, yet she brought out the importance, the nuances, the niceties of the grammar points also, how Madhusūdana Saraswati has, without knowing grammar, Madhusūdana Saraswati cannot be known at all. She has Chakampe Tarkavagi Saha Katarobhut Gadadaraha. She has quoted one thing from Nyaya, and I will give another. Madhusūdana Saraswatyaha Param Veti Saraswati, Veti Param Saraswatyaha Madhusūdana Saraswati. This is how it is said. Madhusūdana Saraswati is such a great scholar, and the depth and the, what is called in Tamil, the beachun sulluvom. The depth and spread of the knowledge of Madhusūdana Saraswati can be known only by Saraswati, and the depth of Saraswati, that is the depth of the knowledge, can be known only by Madhusūdana Saraswati. Madhusūdana Saraswati is the real Sarvatandra Swatantra, he a real great scholar, and Veti Param Saraswatyaha, that is the other shore of the ocean of knowledge, is known only by Madhusūdana Saraswati. And the depth of the knowledge of Madhusūdana Saraswati, Madhusūdana Saraswatyaha Param Veti Saraswati. This is how the greatness of Madhusūdana Saraswati is presented, and equally she has presented in the beginning, how in the influence of Chaitanya, that is entire eastern belt has become converted into Vaishnavism. Vibhuti ingiradhu anga paaka mudiyadhu. Vibhuti is not considered to be a very sacred thing there. In that belt, namanda anga. So, adula Advaithathai establish panni, and Advaithathai pinnadi follow pannadhu Ramakrishna Matla. And the tradition is continued. Adoda mattum illa Naga Sadhu traditions. That Naga Sadhu tradition leads Kumbh Mela now. You can understand the importance, the greatness, the contribution of Madhusūdana Saraswati. She has brought out all those things also in the beginning of the history of Madhusūdana Saraswati. On the whole, it is a very nice lecture. She has brought out all the different aspects, the different philosophies, how it was presented in GÖÄHÄRTHA DīPIKā, the psychological and the grammatical aspects, and then important verses. That is Vrittanu Kirtanam. That is before starting one commentary, before starting one chapter, the previous chapter has to be summarized, the next succeeding chapter has to be indicated, how he has presented all those things, those information also. And the most important thing is she has done it within the time. and I also have to do it within time. And now I respect the Secretary of Kuppuswami Research Institute to present the cash memento to Yamuna Devi. And the next Tuesday also equally an important lecture is there. Vedanta Deshika, he is also a Sarvatantra Swatantra, Chaturadika Sata Prabandhakarta, and he has written Mimamsa Paduka and Seswara Mimamsa, 2 books. And the Seswara Mimamsa is going to be presented next Tuesday at the same time by Professor Mahamahopadhyay Manidravid Sastrigal. And there are also equally an important Mimamsa topic and on Vedanta Deshika's Mimamsa, and we invite all of you to be present for that lecture also and to be benefited. And thank you very much for all of you to be present here. And I thank the endowment makers, and I also thank the people who have made the arrangements, and thank everyone. Thank you.